and we get to Jimin. For those of you who don't know, we're doing a series. We're looking into the different songwriting styles and creative preferences of BTS members. We've done Jin, Suga, RM, and J-Hope, and now we get to Jimin. Okay, if you do end up liking this video, please give it a thumbs up. Of course, subscribe and hit that notification button so that you know when there's a new video getting published. And if you can, please share it because that's really helping my channel. Okay, let's go to Chim Chim.
Magic realism in his poetry. Jimin does not give himself enough credit, not just in his skills in writing melodies, but also in his poetry. He once said that he isn't actually good in writing poetry, quote unquote, and has the tendency to be blunt and straightforward. I can't disagree more because he happens to have penned one of the most technically difficult poetic structures. I have no other word for it but magic realism. Magical realism is a genre of literature that depicts the real world as having an undercurrent of magic or fantasy. Magic realism is part of the realism genre or fiction. Within a work of magic realism, the world is still grounded in the real world, but fantastical elements are considered normal in this world. Many of the songs he has written are very much grounded in reality. They seem straightforward, but he always twists it just enough to allow some fantastical elements to break the monotony and give the verse or even the entire song a deeper meaning. In Like Crazy, for example, the second verse starts with him saying, "Watch me go, drenching myself all night away," in other words, drinking all night. This is a practical and realistic situation, but he follows it up with an anthropomorphism. It is a literary device that assigns human characteristics to non-human entities like animals or inanimate objects. He proceeds so that even the morning gets drunk and does not arrive. He did it again later in the song. He said, "Every night you spin me up so high." Although that's already a metaphor, it is really not too complex of a concept. But he follows it up with something fantastical, saying, "With the moon holding you in its arms, let me have a taste." It's a beautiful imagery in itself, but preceding a line that's more simple in the situation it presents, it immediately transforms the world he is putting you in from practical to magical. He did it in the song Lie as well. He said during the bridge, "I am still the same person I was before. I am here, the same person I was from before." But he followed it up with a personification. "An overgrown lie is trying to swallow me whole." He gave an abstract concept, which is lie, human qualities. Putting that line suddenly pushes the song to a different direction. When he says, "Caught in a lie, find the me that was pure," it suddenly becomes physical. It seems that for him, there are always two orders of reality. The first is the rational, and then the second is something that we can call romantic or existential. Progression of his narratives. Even for veteran lyricists, it's so rare to have the instinct or maturity to actually move your story forward in a song. It may be because pop songs are really made to be simple. Progressing the narrative of a song adds complexities. Just try looking into some of the global hits, the biggest ones, and you will realize just how simple the melody and the lyrics are. It's almost as if all you really need to understand is the chorus and you'll understand the entire song. Jimin songs are on the other end of the spectrum. They definitely tell a complex story. And unless you understand each line, you won't understand the totality of the message. Let's start with Face Off. The first part was him saying it was his fault. He says, "I guess the blame is on me. Look at me now. I live like a pathetic idiot." But on the second verse, he pushed the story forward. He started talking about the sacrifices that he made. He gave you all my money, gave you all my heart. Your masquerade party, I was effing drunk. And then when he moves on to the third verse, that's when he declares and claims his own freedom. He does the same thing for Alone. He starts off wondering, what happened? How did he start plunging into depression? He asked himself, since when has it been that I started feeling scared by everyone smiling in front of me? And then on the next verse, he slowly started realizing how pathetic he allowed himself to become. Why am I the only one like this? No, everyone is like this. The me who pretends to be okay every time I find him pathetic. On the third part, that's when he came to a resolution, a resolve that he wanted to get away from it all. A cold and lonely night, mindlessly alone, I pace in the room with lights turned off. Though I used to say it's okay, I feel like gradually losing myself. Day and night, the repeated fall, bad twilight, though I try to look away. And even in his early songs like Lie, there was a very, very smooth progression. He started with seduction. Tell me with your sweet smile. Tell me like you're whispering in my ear. Don't be like a prey. Smooth like a snake. I want to get away. And then when he succumbs to it, the fear starts to creep in. Get away, away from me. Whoever it may be, save me, save me. He eventually started feeling like he really needed to get out. Caught in a lie, find the me that was pure. I can't be free from this lie. Give me back my smile. Caught in a lie. And even with a light-hearted song, but very meaningful song, Friends, the progression was evident. He started remembering how they were in the past. Soul that used to be so unusually sparkling was another new world to me. I met you when you were clammy with sweat. And then in the chorus, he started talking about the differences that they have that actually made them click. Hello, my alien. We are each other's mystery. Is that why it's even more special? On the third section, he started looking into the future. A promise to stay together. One day when this cheer dies down, stay. Stay by my side. For eternity, keep staying here. Definitely one of the most beautiful songs of friendship I have ever heard. All of this shows that when Jimin writes, he isn't just stuck in one message and then tries to rewrite it over and over again. He does not over-expound on a certain idea. He delivers the point and then grows it. He moves on. He pushes the narrative forward.
Battle against himself. Jimin looks inward. At least that's what it seems from where we are at. He is a perfectionist, but mostly on himself, wanting to make sure that every inch of his body actually delivers refinement unseen by man. He seems to be extremely pensive and analytical, perpetually turning the wheels on his head to navigate human complexity. It shouldn't be surprising that a lot of his songs deal with his battles against himself. It's him challenging what he perceives to be right or correct. He opened Lie with some sort of a seduction. Tell me with your sweet smile. Tell me like you're whispering in my ear. Don't be like a prey. Be smooth like a snake. And then he shifts to call for help in the next verse. Get away from me, whoever it may be, save me. It continues even when I run away. But before you could suspect something or someone else is harming him, he immediately admits it's him doing it to himself, saying, I'm caught in a lie. He also did it with Set Me Free, but it was a little different because it was supposed to be a culmination of his entire internal battle. He said, I got a good time. Yeah, time to get mine. I wandered into a maze, Hennessy at night. I never stop. Again, repeat. I never stop. F all your ops, finally free. That was him describing how he was battling his demons. And by the refrain, he was talking about flying free and giving a finger to everyone or everything that tried to put him down. He sings, I'm standing at the edge. But then he fights either the urge or push to jump. He says, not yet, I won't look back. He then muster up the courage to fly instead of fall. Now, yeah, fly away, butterfly, finally free.
It is important to note that he has repeatedly emphasized that it was critical for himself to be the first one to set himself free. It adds a new dimension to the song, to him as an artist and probably him as a person too. Jimin has always been portrayed to be the one who seeks the opinion of others. This song seemed to have defied that a little bit, as it captures an important moment in his life. He actually opted to set himself free instead of asking others to set him free. Even in the legendary bridge he wrote for Disease, he dealt with his struggles to keep on going despite his exhaustion. He said, "Sick and tired, but I don't want to mess up, because life goes on. Through the fire, I'll walk more like who I am. Walk it, walk it, walk it." He then reveals what he wants to do, which is also a proof of his narrative progression. "When the night comes, I'll close my eyes, walk it, walk it, walk it, and trust my old self again. Now wake me up one more time. It's morning again. I have to be myself today. Let's go for it. One more night." The last part actually reveals what he has become. He says, "No one knows what'll be at the end. No night lasts forever. I've become stronger. The firework sparks. I will never fade away." Ever-expanding range. There are so many singers out there that stay within a genre, and even more performers whose songs sound so similar. You can literally match any of their melodies to any of their beats and it will still work. Jimin, even with such a young solo career in more ways than one, has already covered so much ground that it's so hard to believe he has just gotten started. Promise was an acoustic ballad. He shifted to an easy pop with Friends. He kicked the intensity several notches higher in Set Me Free Part 2. With Like Crazy, he gallantly flew between genres, not fully landing on any. It's a little pop, a little bit of a dance track, but also sultry and definitely dark. Alone was supposed to be a ballad, but it is also almost a folk song. Laid back, very lo-fi. For Lie, where he is credited both in composition and lyrics, he actually combined the classical with Latin. This shows that Jimin's instinct to always present something different and push the edge of his artistry isn't just limited to dance. He has a natural sense to deviate from what he has already done and walk an unfamiliar path. It has resulted in a prolific discography with a range rarely matched even by veteran singers. A blacksmith of lethal poetry. Jimin can insert a single line in a song and expand the spectrum of a song. With this, he is actually able to demonstrate just how fragile words are, how a single inflection can change the message we have been building towards. In Life, for example, he was screaming for help. Desperate, he sings, "Get away from me. Whoever it may be, save me, save me." It continues even when I run away. But then he reveals he was battling himself with a single line. "I am caught in a lie." It makes you stop and think if there is a soul in his life that can grant him the salvation he has been begging for. Can we really be of help to anyone who is battling themselves? In Disease, with his melodies and lyrics, he communicated the urgency, pain, and desperation to break free. But in the last line, he suddenly rises and declares with finality, "I will never fade away." He did this even with Like Crazy. He cried and he cried. "This will break me. This is gonna break me." But then he refuses to wake up. "No, don't you wake me. I want to stay in this dream. Don't save me. I need a way we can dream on." Jimin can wield a line so sharp that it can cut through the heart of all the words he has uttered in the whole song. A real blacksmith of lethal poetry. Jimin penned one of the most succinctly written songs in history. Like Crazy is by far one of the most succinctly written songs in terms of narrative progression in the history of music. Almost every line is a narrative progression, and almost every line uncovers a deeper meaning. I could spend another video on this song just breaking down the musicality, how he actually used some of his poetry, but for the sake of timing, I will just go through some of the lines. He starts, "Tell me with your sweet smile, to me, tell me like you whisper in my ear. Don't be like a prey, be smooth like a snake." The first 4 lines were an invitation actually, but then the last 2 lines, "Don't be like a prey, be smooth like a snake," that was actually a suggestion, an evil one. And then he follows it up with fear. "Though I want to escape, please get away from me, away from me." And then he calls for help. "Whatever it takes, please save me, please save me." Then he describes what he has been feeling and what he has been experiencing. It continues, "Even if I try running away, I'm drowning in lies." That's 5 plot points before he even gets to the chorus. Every line is not wasted. In every line, he pushes the narrative forward. Jimin's melodies are the sounds of enigmatic souls. By now, we all know that melody is the first thing that Jimin actually mastered. They are soothing to the ear and harmful to the throat if you aren't Jimin. They are deceivingly hard to sing. Jimin's smooth voice actually makes it sound so easy, but underneath that is a vocal technique that he uses as the starting point of his melodies, making his delivery almost impossible to copy. Of course, those things are easy to claim. Anybody can pull adjectives in the air and pretend those are actual explanations.
I will try to explain parts that are tangible or at least conceptually explainable, but I'm not going to do it in this video because it's going to be extensive. So I will try also to get a professional, a voice coach or someone that's really professionally involved in music, but as detached as possible from K-pop. I feel like that's the most objective way we can actually look into this. And it's not just going to be Jimin, of course, it's going to be the rest of BTS members. I just feel like his melodies actually deserve a video onto its own, but I will give you several major points. There are several factors that really come into play in determining what makes a song difficult to sing.
First, range, the span from the lowest to the highest note in a song. The more octave it covers, the wider the range. One of the pop songs with the widest range is Emotions by Mariah Carey with 4 octaves, C3 to E7. Next is vocal tessitura. While range is the span of the lowest to the highest note, tessitura is that part of the range which is receiving the most use. Next is tempo. It is how fast or slow a piece of music is performed. It is generally measured through the number of beats per minute, where the beat is the basic measure of time in music. The simplest example is how easier it is to sing Levitating than rapping Rap God of Eminem. Levitating is slower, so you can play the notes and sing the lyrics easier than Rap God. And yes, I am very much aware that I'm comparing 2 different genres, but it's just to explain it. Next is agility. It is the ease of moving easily, smoothly, and sometimes quickly through registers. You need some hardcore breathing techniques so you can open up quickly to breathe. The steeper the pitch change, the harder it is to sing. Resonance. Resonance is the intensity or the quality of the tone you hear when you speak or you sing. Basically, this is your voice. This is what makes it recognizably your voice. Next is sustained notes. A note or chord that is held for a prolonged period of time. The longer you need to hold the note, the harder it is to sing.
So these are just some of the many other factors that we might be mentioning when we discuss Jimin's melodies and how it is so intricately tied to his vocal techniques and the quality of his voice. Okay, to be honest, I really enjoy going back into the songs of BTS members. I feel like there's always something there. Like every time you go back to it and really listen to it and try to analyze it, there's always something new to discover. So this series has been a pleasure. We have 2 more coming, V and Jungkook. JK's solo album is going to be released tonight, so I might, in the next episode, dive into that a little bit and then go back to V and then finish off with our maknae, Jungkook. Thank you so much. If you have any inputs, comments, suggestions, leave them in the comment section below. You can also get in touch with me in any of the social media links that you see on your screen right now. And if you do end up liking this video, please consider liking it. Also subscribe and hit that notification button so that you know when there's a new video getting published. And of course, share the video if you can. Thank you so much. I appreciate you all.